Hello there, Seraph17 once again. This is more Bad Business content, and today I'm using the MP7 on Arena. Arena is a map you see a lot on my channel because it's one of the best maps in the game. And it's one of the best maps in the game because it's two sides slamming in the middle and chaos ensues. However, if you come up against those teams that play this map like absolute cowards, it's one of the worst maps in the game. Hopefully, this is not going to be one of those experiences. And I'm really overextending here. This is really silly. So you might be wondering, Chris, what the hell were you doing then? And it's a good question. I noticed a while back before this gameplay that when people like to push this side and have that shooting contest down the corridor, which I absolutely adore, I love when people do that, there's a good chance that if you go over the top and drop down, if you time it right, you can get 3 to 4 to 5 people with their backs to you, and you can go on a nice little clip and get a nice feed on them. The problem is, you have your back to their spawn, and if anyone's spawning in, they're running back to this corridor because it's where all the fun is. So they'll be shooting you when you drop down. And just then was an example of what happens when the clips don't happen. So I drop down all ambitiously, and I run into a buzzsaw of people behind me, people in front of me, and there's too many people to shoot. Like this is what I'm trying to do. See that? That was a failed clip as well. I didn't have enough bullets to finish that, but that was a really nice flick. But that happens, doesn't it? The AS Val, man. I like the AS Val. It's a fun gun. It feels like a really skillful gun because it's got no bullets and high recoil. But the amount of clips I could have got with that gun if it had 30 rounds is off the charts. I always run out of bullets and there's always one dude left and it's so frustrating. That is a gun that needs attachments more so than many. And I can't imagine that gun without, the recoil it has now, because can you imagine the AS Val with no recoil? Can you imagine the Honey Badger with no recoil? The MP7 barely has recoil, and that's the biggest strength of this gun. So I saw a meta list for Bad Business that had the MP5 and the MP7 at the top of the meta for the submachine guns, and I nearly fell out of my seat because I'd not used the MP7, and I think the MP5's the worst submachine gun. And people are probably going to go, oh my god, Chris, you're garbage, how can you think that? And it's just because the MP5 being good is because you're good. The MP5 does no damage. It does no damage, guys. It is a tickle gun. However, it has no recoil. So if you're good at the game, you can make the MP5 really good. If you hit headshots, the MP5's a good gun because it lasers. Any gun that lasers is a good gun. But as far as damage goes and damage profiles, the MP5 has the weakest damage profile of all the submachine guns. For me personally. So all the subs I've used, and I've used them all except for the Tommy gun because I haven't bought it yet, I think that the MP5 is by far my least enjoyable SMG. Because all I got was hit markers. Hit markers, hit markers, hit markers, and it wasn't fun. It just wasn't for me. So when I saw the MP5 on that list, I thought, Jesus Christ, why would anybody think that? And then it made me question the efficacy of the MP7. And then I unlocked the MP7 and I started using it, and I can safely say the MP7 belongs on that list. This gun, ladies and gentlemen, is everything people say about the MP5, but it has damage up close. This gun, up to its designated range where it wants you to be using it, is really, really good. Because it has 900 RPM, it fires 900 rounds per minute. So when you shoot people with this thing, and you hit them in the chest and you hit them in the head, anywhere between close to its medium range, it just absolutely deletes people. And it feels good. However, the moment you move out of that range, this gun feels like the MP5. A faster firing MP5. And the reason why it still works is because it fires fast. If the MP5 fired faster, I'd like that gun more, sorry. But because it's so slow compared to something like this, it just feels weak. Like this gun here, it's a good job this thing doesn't have a lot of range. It's a good job its range is really limited because it's so good. And I didn't think it was going to be that good as well. I kind of got a bit bummed out with the SMGs, especially after the AUG. Once you use the AUG, everything in this game feels kind of shit. Because the AUG's just it's so satisfying. It's such a satisfying gun. If it was up to me, every gun would be balanced like the AUG. Because that's where Bad Business shines. It's a gun that takes some using, but if you can use it, it's really good. And it also has limitations too, with its recoil and with its low rounds. Like anything that has 25 rounds is going to be harder to use than something that has 30 or 50. Because you have 5 less bullets to be effective with. Especially if it fires quickly. And the AUG fires kind of fast, all considered the damage it does. The damage on the AUG is is really high all considered, and such a fun gun to use. But this is my MP7 video, and I should be talking about this. So the speed you can get with this gun, fast fire rate, fast movement rate. The one area that definitely stood out as being a little weak on my time using it was the hip. Its hip fire can be good if you get some attachments on it, but it starts off a bit lacking, and I think that's a good thing, because there's a lot of guns in bad business where your hip fire is perfect when you first start using it. Like the Galil surprised the shit out of me. I could not believe how good the Galil was with no attachments. I got my first 100 kill game with the Galil, it's that bloody good, and I didn't have any attachments on it except for an optic. Like that gun is absurdly strong if you can aim. And so is this one, and so is the MP5, you know. The guns in this game that people love are the guns that they feel most comfortable with, not necessarily the best guns. And it's the same with my opinions on the weapons. The guns that I don't like are the ones that just don't make me feel strong. Like a big one for me is the TAR. I think the TAR's the worst assault rifle in the game. I'd rather use anything else. And people think like that the FAL's the worst because it takes a lot of skill. The FAL's amazing. If you can aim and you're good with semi-automatic weapons, the FAL's one of the strongest guns in the game. It has absurd hip fire, really good damage. If you can aim and if you're good at the game, the FAL will be one of the strongest guns in the game. The FAMAS is the same, although it's a bit weaker potentially. The FAMAS has great hip fire. It is very strong if you can aim, but you have to be able to aim. If you can't aim, the FAMAS is going to be a pile of dog shit. And one of the weird things about that gun you might not know that I didn't know until recently, you can hold the trigger and it will cycle automatically. It does not need you to keep pressing the button, which is weird, but I love that, because I don't like pressing the button. I'm lazy. But I don't like the TAR, guys, and the developers have mentioned getting a buff on it for 60 damage a headshot, and I really think that gun needs it. And I'm not going to talk too much about the TAR because it's going to get its own video, but for the people that are gobsmacked right now, this guy keeps consistently beating me with that G36. It's pretty frustrating. That is one of the downsides of having a submachine gun up close sometimes. The ARs beat them a lot with their damage profile, and they really shouldn't. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there should be a hierarchy of guns that win in ranges they should win at. Like an LMG should beat anything else at range. LMGs are meant to fire at long range, that's what they fucking do. Up close, they shouldn't be that good. Assault rifles should be good at medium to long and decent up close, but they shouldn't be that good up close. Subs should be amazing up close, decent medium, not very good at long. But as it stands, like all the guns are great at medium and close. Like it's fucking nuts. And the ones that people hate the most are just the ones that fire fast, have good damage, and that you get the earliest. Like the only reason that this guy is using a G36 is because he can't use any other guns really, because he doesn't have any other ARs. What is he going to use, a FAMAS, a FAL, and actually have to aim? The fuck no, he's not going to do that, is he? He's going to use the automatic gun that melts people. And the reason he's going to do that is because he got it at level 10. He got it at level 10 and he doesn't get another automatic until level 55 or level 60 or whatever it is when he gets the M16. That's not the player's fault, that's the game's fault. You can't give these people LMGs and single shot weapons and expect them to use it when there's a G36 with no recoil and 700 RPM. Like, they're gonna use that gun, it fucking melts you, and it also client sides the shit out of you because of how fast it fires. That was the MP7, another gun that fires insanely fast and will client side the hell out of people. I love this SMG, it's definitely one of the best. If this gets attachments for a bigger magazine, this will easily be one of the most fun guns in the game, and I can't wait to see what they do with it, but they need to tread carefully because if you give this thing any more range, you're asking for trouble.